Today I'm going to do a book tag. I don't normally do book tags, but I absolutely loved this one. It's called New York Times by the Book Tag. It was created by Mary Berg and it's inspired by the New York Times column and it's just fantastic. So I'm going to get straight into it. Also, sorry about the lighting, which I should just start off every single video by saying sorry about the lighting. But oh well. First question is, what book is on your nightstand? I have this book which... oh, it's so good. This is called The God File. It's a novel by Frank Turner Holland. It's about a man, I believe he's serving a life prison sentence for a crime he did not commit. So at the beginning of the book you find out about the circumstances of the crime and why he is in prison for it. And he created this file out of letters and kind of diary entries, trying to find an existence in God. And so when it starts, he doesn't believe in God, so he's trying to find different ways, trying to find some kind of religion when living in like this hell, which is the prison. So it kind of reads like a series of short stories. It's talking about his life before prison, it's talking about his life inside prison, it's talking about the inmates because he's with other people who have murdered people. A lot of them are very mad, and so he's talking about that. He's talking about, it's just so good. Like the chapter will be something like suicide, and then he'll talk about suicide and say, I contemplated suicide, this was how I was going to do it, and then he'll go into a story about suicide, and it's just such a good book so far. So I'm reading that. I'm reading a chapter every night. What was the last truly great book you read? This is called Disgrace. It's by G.M. Coates, and I've spoken about this in my What I've Been Reading video, but it is such a good read. I think everyone should read it. So if you want to hear more about it, then go over to my What I've Been Reading video, so I'm not boring for people who have seen that video. If you could meet any writer, who would it be and what would you want to know? I think this is quite obvious, but like Alice Walker, 100%. This is her short story collection, You Can't Keep a Good Woman Down, which I'm currently reading. I'm currently adoring. But what I'd like to say to her is, are your characters based on people you've met in your own life, or is it just people you imagine? Because all her characters are so distinct. So I think with a lot of authors, you can read one of their novels and you read another novel, and some of the characters are just kind of copy and paste. The authors just change the name on them. Whereas with her books, the characters are so distinct. I'm like, how do you think up that many characters? Because she writes a lot of short stories, and all the characters in the short stories are different as well. And so I'd love to know how she comes up with a character. And all her characters are incredibly believable as well, that's the thing. So I'd love to ask her that. What book might we be surprised to find on your shelves? This was the only one I could really find that I think would be a bit of a surprise. This is a YA book. It's by Kathy Hopkins. It's Cinnamon Girl Looking for a Hero. I just think this isn't the kind of book that I normally pick up, but I like to try different books, so I thought I would give this a go. I'm currently reading it. It's about a girl who's got a crush, and that's obviously going to be the basis of the story. But the thing that I like within this is the main romance isn't really with her and her crush, it's just her friendship. It's like her and the girls and how they've got such a close friendship, her gang, and that's the loveliness about it. And it kind of takes you back to being a kid, and your friendships were like so close, and it's very beautiful in that way. But that's not like, I'm not saying it's a great book because I haven't finished reading it yet, so I'm not sure about that. How do you organise your personal library? I go with the technique which is called stuffing the shelves. Nothing is organised. Let me try and show you. There, just stuff the shelves as best you can. I have kind of two book collections because I have my books here at uni and then my books at home. And I don't have enough shelves for the amount of books that I have, so I just stuff them in. It's a nightmare, but hopefully one day I need to get like more shelves at home, and then I can, sort out a bit more. What book have you always meant to read and haven't gotten around to? Jane Eyre by Charlotte Bronte. This is the one book that has been kind of repeatedly commented on my videos when I say any book recommendations. People are like Jane Eyre, Jane Eyre, Jane Eyre. So I definitely need to get round to this. Kind of started it a little bit, but yeah, that's definitely one. Disappointing, overrated. What book were you supposed to like but didn't? I didn't hate this book. When you talk about Kevin by Lionel Shriver, I've spoken about this before in What I've Been Reading video. I didn't hate it. I just found it incredibly slow, and I thought I was gonna adore this book. I thought this was gonna be my all-time favourite book, and it just wasn't, and so that's why it was disappointing for me. What kinds of stories are you drawn to? And then the question with that is any you stay clear of. Now I thought I would just look at my shelves, because I always say I'm drawn to horror books, which I am. I have majority horror books, they're my thing. And so I have a lot of horror books and I have a lot of classic books, and so I thought I'll see what other genres I have on my shelf that I've actually read. And so these are them. I'm going to go through them quickly. I have literary fiction, erotic fiction, oh my god, historical fiction, plays, children's books, autobiographies, and YA. So I think that proves that I don't really have a genre that much. I'll just try any book, any genre, I'll go for it. If you could require the president to read one book, what would it be? I'd say president, obviously is for America, but in the UK we call him Prime Minister. So I'd say for both of them, probably this book, which is a very important book. It's a self-memoir about this girl who was raised in Iran, and then it's all about the Iran War, which obviously was caused by England and America together. And then it's about how the country kind of turned into an Islamic state in certain places. So it became a very Muslim country when her family aren't Muslim in it, and they get forced to become Muslim, and she gets forced to wear the burqa. And it's kind of about that. It's about how dangerous it is when you let religion rule a place. So religion is great, and I think everyone, I'm not religious, but everyone should be able to have whatever religion they want. That's completely fine. But I do not think people should be forced into religion, and that's what the problem is. And how she's talking about Islamic State, which is trying to get into other countries around Europe, and I suppose eventually it will be America. Islamic State is very, you're either with us or you're against us. It doesn't really accept that some people might not want to be Muslim, and it's not very accepting of that. And she's saying it's a very militant thing, and it's within this, it's quite a controversial book, but not really, because she's just talking about it and saying, see what it's done to Iran, maybe look what it's going to do to the rest of the world, is what I would say. And I really don't have a problem with people being whatever religion they want. Where I live now, this is like the multicultural capital of the UK. That's what it's called where I live. It's very multicultural. There are so many different religions living here, and it works, but it's when one religion becomes very aggressive. So that could be any religion. It could be Christianity, or it could be Muslim religion, anything. It's when that religion becomes very militant, and that's what it's about. So she gets fined for not wearing the burqa in Iran, and when she's wearing makeup she gets arrested, and it's about how it tries to control everything within your life until you join them. And it's about that. It's so interesting to read, but also it's about the damage that America and the UK did do to Iran when they said they were looking for mass weapons of destruction, and then did we find them? Did we not? That was all kind of hush-hushed. And it's talking about that and the consequences that will now have. Oh, it's a graphic novel, and it's so worth your time. So I would like the Prime Minister and the President to read that, because it's about the history of what England and America have done to that country. It's then talking about how Islamic State came in, and how Islamic State, wants to spread all over the world, because people who are within the Islamic State think that's the right way to live. And it's kind of about Sharia law, and it covers so many different fields. It's really interesting. It's really interesting for the time that we're living in now. It's fascinating to read. What do you plan to read next? I'm currently reading The Secret Garden by Frances Hodgson Burnett. I find the character of Mary a spoiled little brat, so I'm really struggling. And I'd like to read next The Collector. This is by John Fowles. It's about, a man, he collects butterflies, he loves beautiful things. He then sees this beautiful art student called Miranda. He wins the pools, he buys a house in the countryside, and he kidnaps poor little Miranda. And this art student, has to work out how to get free of him and understand why he's kidnapped her and what the hell's going on. I think he thinks she's going to fall in love with him. It's just mental. The first page is straight into it. He's like, I remember when I first saw her, and is talking about her, so it gets straight into it. I thought it was going to be, we were going to find out a little bit about his backstory and then her, but it's straight into kind of action. It's quite short, I suppose, but I'm very, very interested to read that. And that's it. That's the end of the video. I adore this tag. I think it is so thought-provoking and just great. I love the question, which was, if you could require the president to read one book, what would it be? I think that's pretty interesting. And so go show love to the person who created this tag. I'll link her channel down below, and I really liked her answers as well. And that's it. I tag everyone to do it because I think it's such a good tag. And it's currently raining. Can you see that? This is English weather. Yep. Fun times. But I'll see you again soon for another video. I'm also failing at Veda. I'm sorry. I'm trying.